and those types of things, right? But in general, the reasons behind our financial privacy laws are gone. Taxes, violation of income tax is not a crime in the Bahamas, you know. It's not a crime in the Bahamas.
No, it shouldn't be because we don't charge.
You don't have income tax. It's a crime elsewhere, right? So our new advantage is being able to live in this world. Being able to advise our clients in this world. That's our advantage, right? So the Bahamas advantage now are the products and services that we can offer to structure for clients in tax mitigated effects, a tax deferred effect, in a declarable and transparent world, right? Taking advantage of what? The different character of income. Taking advantage of what? Deferral of income, by utilizing our structures that fit in the tax laws of the domestic countries, right? That's where we live.
But if the banks are pulling out, the banks funding the private banks.
Right,
the
but you don't need the assets. You don't need the assets. You could do the management, you could do the trading, you could do the structuring, you could do the fund administration, you could do the legal work, you could do the trusts, right? But you don't, they could bank anywhere in the world. They could bank anywhere in the world, right? So what are our products? We have funds. We have the icon, for instance. We'll talk about why that was created. We have trusts. We got IBCs that can work in that, and we have our exempt partnerships. These are still our products, and we are probably the most efficient jurisdiction in coming up with new products. We were the first to legislate foundations. We're the only one in the world to create an icon, a form of entity that only civil law countries can observe.
So ICON is the acronym for...
So ICON is an investment condominium. So I'll give you a little history about this because I created it. So in Brazil is a main example, right? In Brazil, they form investment funds with a structure that they call a condominium. Not a corporation, not a partnership, not a trust, but a condominium. And all a condominium is an agreement between people to invest together. Think of a condominium building. What is your condominium association? Your condominium association is an agreement between unit holders to manage their building. A condominium in the investment fund context in civil law countries and in Brazil is an agreement among people to pool their assets to invest. Right? It's not a separate legal entity. You don't go to a registrar and fill it out or anything like that. And so we said, okay, let's take the principles of that and form an entity, right? So you may see a fund formed as an IBC and licensed as a fund, or a partnership and licensed as a fund, or a trust and licensed as a fund. Now you can be an icon and licensed as a fund, investment condominium. And so that's one of our tools in our toolbox, right? That's one of the tools in the toolbox. And all of these can be utilized for different planning opportunities in a tax-declared environment. It has to be jurisdictionally relevant, right? So you have to go and research the jurisdictions, right? You have to identify the jurisdictions, understand their tax rules, and then figure out how your structures work within those tax rules to be able to do what? Take advantage of character, income, and deferral. So when we were creating the icon, you know what we did? We went to Brazil. We went to Brazil frequently. We created a round table of lawyers and bankers and practitioners. And we came up with the concept. We got tax opinions out of Brazil to support it, to tell us how it would be treated. We wrote the legislation, gave it back to the Brazilian lawyers. They edited it and gave it back to us. And so you understand the actual jurisdictions you're going after. right? And so we look at LATAM now. We're doing a lot of planning in these Latin American countries because their tax systems are similar. So if the icon works in Brazil, it works in Chile, Peru, and Mexico as well. Right? And now you have a structure that's tax advantaged for planning here in the Bahamas. That's where we are as a result of the first two classes, right? So this is let's use Brazil as an example because that's where we originate. 60% of the new investment funds in the Bahamas are Brazilian funds. 60, over half. Why? Because in Brazil, an investment in a financial instrument can take advantage of deferral of tax on the income generated. So the client will say, okay, I want to form my own fund. I'm the only subscriber into my fund. And my investment is a financial instrument because I'm investing in a fund. Therefore, all of the investments of this fund get tax deferral. Now, if I'm that same client and I invest directly, I give the bank the money directly and say invest it in my name, I have to pay taxes annually. Every year. I don't get deferral because that's my income. Right? I'm not investing in a financial instrument. If I invest in an IBC, it's automatically included in my income. Why? Because of CFC rules, right? Remember? Control for, it's like subpart F income. It's like passive income. So it's includable in my income. See what happens when you miss class? You don't know these acronyms. Right? But because I'm investing in a fund, it's achieving the same thing, right? It's achieving the same thing. It's my money being managed. It's my money in an IBC being managed, it's my money directly being managed, or it's my money in a fund being managed. Now, because I'm in a fund, I get what? I get deferral. Remember our examples on deferral? Remember the compound effect?
Yes.
Remember Apple Computer, Templeton? I'm now my own Apple Computer.
What if the private label fund is held in the account of the underlying company held by a trust?
Who's the taxpayer?
The taxpayer would be the IBC.
No, the taxpayer would be the beneficiary of the trust. Or the settler of the trust if it's revocable. I have a settler from Brazil. Settles a trust. Right? He's probably the beneficiary as well.
Yeah.
Right? You saying I have an IBC that invests in a fund.
I think that, yes, in the account.
Right? One question is I don't know why you have the IBC. That's the first question, right? You don't really need an intermediate entity, right? It's just cost to the client, right? But this is a. I mean, if this is a CFC, right? Because this is a revocable trust, it's a collapsible trust. But this is you're still getting deferral. The fund is always going to still get deferral because if it's included up in income, he's invested in a financial instrument. Right? So you could have that structure. You don't really need the IBC. IBC is kind of irrelevant.
So, a Latin American person can have a fund that we hold for them,
Yeah.
that is
So
held in a vehicle?
you could hold it in a vehicle or you could hold it directly.
Yeah, we hold it directly.
I'm a Brazilian client and I subscribe to a fund. Right? That fund is a Bahamas smart fund organized as an icon.
Oh, that's how they do it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And so now, in this fund, it's a Bahamas-based fund, I have a lawyer that does the work, I have an accountant that audits the fund, I have a fund administrator that administers the day-to-day aspects of the fund, and I have an asset manager who's managing The assets of the fund. Right? So when I say banking is going away, but service providing is where our future is, through structures that accomplish deferral or change in character, that's what I mean. Now this money could be in Switzerland. Doesn't matter where that money is. That can be banked in Switzerland. Why? Because this is all tax declared money anyway. Doesn't matter if it's in Switzerland, in the Bahamas, in New York, in London. In Brazil, doesn't matter.
And I guess you make more money the more hats you've been wearing.
If you could provide the competency.
What if it's an irrevocable trust?
I think,
It's difficult to pine on trust in Brazil because they don't recognize it. So you always want to structure it where you have deferral in case they collapse the trust because they don't recognize it, right? So the irrevocable trust is taking advantage of estate planning purposes, not necessarily tax planning purposes. That's why you have the fund under to be the one that is the deferral mechanism in case the trust is collapsible, because they don't necessarily recognize trust in civil law countries, right? Trust is a common law concept. So right, so when I have my fund, right? When I have my fund, I'm getting deferral. So I'm my own Apple computer, right? And now, remember short-term, long-term capital gain. Short-term capital gain is the same rates as ordinary income. So if I'm trading through the year, I'm not generating capital gain. Remember that concept from the first class? So I'm trading during the year, right? I'm trading, that's what I do. It's my financial assets, I trade. So what am I generating? I'm generating short-term capital gain, which is ordinary income rates, right? So, which equals ordinary income, which is the higher rate. Well, if I invest through a fund, how do I get my money out? I redeem. What does redeem mean? I sell my shares back to the fund for money. So instead of holding 100 shares in the fund, I sell 10% back. I now own 90 shares in the fund, and I get 10% of the assets out in exchange. Right? What does that create? But what type of income? Capital gain. So I've now converted ordinary income to capital gain through the use of a fund. Right? So what's the tax preferred position of a Brazilian using a Bahamian investment fund to manage their assets? Deferral, because I don't have to pay tax until I redeem. And then changing from ordinary income to capital gain, tax mitigation. Right? So I've now addressed the concepts from the first class in how we do legitimate tax declared structures in the Bahamas for tax mitigation for foreign clients. It doesn't matter where it's banked. That's why you see a proliferation of external asset managers in the Bahamas. Right? Banks don't manage assets like they used to. It's mostly EAMs now. Right? Because it's easy to come here and get an asset management license and set up a shop and manage this fund. And bank it anywhere you want, don't matter. And I don't have to be tied to a bank. I could be an asset manager and manage the assets in 5 different banks if I wanted to.
you just have to have a license.
Just have to have a license.
You said it was easy to get a license, so.
Yeah, because the capital requirements are low. I mean, you got to pass fit and proper, right? You got to show that you have the ability to manage assets. But capital requirements are low. The application procedure is fairly straightforward. Hire a lawyer like me, I could get it through. I'm doing 3 of them now, and 3 broker dealers.
So after successfully passing this class, then you can set up an asset management company.
Hire us.
Yeah, check
We own the company. We own.
on the company.
Oh, we can.
On the company.
See, I worked with a bank so long, I tried
You
to
see?
wrap my mind around.
You see?
We gotta-
Right? So this type of structuring, that's why you see a big concentration on funds and private label funds and private client funds. right? Because we have a focus now in Latin America, right? And Latin America is mostly civil law jurisdictions. And remember the countries I spoke about. These are where you're seeing your clients come from, right? And maybe Argentina. I got a couple clients from Argentina, right?
They're getting a bit nervous now, those not clients,
Yeah.
because of CRS.
Yeah, they are.
And,
Yeah.
you know, in their country, they're afraid that the information is gonna get out
Mhm.
there,
Mhm.
and they're gonna be kidnapped.
It's a serious concern,
Not the Caribbean too.
serious concern,
Are nervous too.
right? But we've also seen a lot of amnesties in Latin American countries, tax amnesties, where they go and they declare what they had undeclared and pay a penalty, and they have no criminal liability or nothing else, right? And so once you do that, so this is what we see a lot. We see a Brazilian that has an IBC, right? And that has invested his money. He doesn't care about controlled foreign corporation rules. Why? Because he doesn't declare the assets, they're undeclared. So he ain't paying taxes on them no matter what, because he doesn't declare them. So he owes them in an IBC. Right? And he says, wait, okay, I have an amnesty. I'm going to go declare all these assets in Brazil. And I'm going to pay my 30%. Right?
You pay 30% of the asset value.
No. But I got no criminal liability. Remember, in Brazil, avoiding your taxes is a crime. You get locked up for like 20 years. Serious things. Yeah, serious things. Right? So I say, okay, I'm going to go do my amnesty. So I do my amnesty. This money is now declared. Right? Tax declared. Well, now I don't want to hold it in IBC anymore. Right? Because it's a CFC and includable in my income every year. There's no benefit for me. So now I convert this into an icon because no CFC and license it as a fund. And I have the same money, it's the same name, everything else. And now I have deferral and I have capital gain treatment. Right? So this works in post-amnesty planning. So all of your clients all the bank clients that are going back and declaring their amnesties, Brazil has an amnesty, Chile just ended one, Peru has one, Mexico has one, Argentina just had one. They all need to convert. So when you're managing their assets and they're like, listen, I'm going in the amnesty.
Yeah, Ecuador too, right?
Yeah. And they say, I'm going in the amnesty. You say, okay, you're in the amnesty. I get it. I understand. But they still want to hold their funds offshore. They want diversification because everything's so volatile at home. The currency's up and down. The politics is up and down. So they still want to be offshore for diversification purposes. You now have to advise them, okay, you're in our tax declared status. I can establish you in a structure that gives you deferral and capital gains treatment. You've now just earned your fee. He's saved more money in taxes than he's going to pay you. Right? And so it's very applicable for post-amnesty planning. Very applicable. So this is just a rough, that shows you different things about why a fund is good, right? Because you're going to be doing a lot of fund work on these clients. Efficiencies, reduced administrative burdens, governance and reporting, right? Family governance. It's just an efficiency slide on the use of funds. Tax advantages, economies of scale. You can pool. So say you and your brothers, your client has 3 brothers. They all have IBCs, right? They all have IBCs and they want a structure, right? You could put them all in one fund with different classes of shares, right? With different portfolios even, if it's a segregated account company. You can get the efficiencies of only having to manage one structure, and each one of their assets are separately managed underneath in different cells, different segregated accounts. So you get the efficiencies, the economies of scale. So you're only paying one fund administrator, you're only paying one asset manager, based upon the total assets, So you get different economies of scale on that. So all of that is available in the use of a fund to manage your client's wealth in a tax-preferred and tax-transparent environment. Right? And so this is just for your reference. I'm not going to go through each one of them. But they're the primary funds that we use in the Bahamas. Right? Smart funds 2s, 4s, and 7s are the most popular. Right? And this is what they're used for. And the number of shareholders and everything, all the distinguishing features. Professional funds are becoming more and more common because the clients say, well, smart funds, yeah, those are a little loosey-goosey, right? I want a professional fund because it's more substance, it gives me a better regulatory environment, and my home jurisdiction might respect it more than a smart fund. We've been hearing that a lot from clients, right? And so you may have a professional fund. And then the standard fund, which is basically your retail fund, right? That's what them fellas in Leno and stuff is used. The ones that offer into the general public. Right? And so we see a lot of convergence. Remember I said the client has the IBC and now he's got to convert to a fund? Right? There's different ways to do that. Right? And so this is from a structuring point of view. So you have, we call them PICs, right? PIC equals IBC. Right? PIC equals IBC. So there's different ways to do it. Say I have, say I have my IBC. Remember, this is the one I just showed you, and I just license it as a fund, right? Fund. If I want it as an icon, I convert it to an icon and then license it as a fund, right? But say I want something new. Say I don't want the legacy here. But I don't want to disrupt the actual structure because there's a tax effect when you liquidate an IBC. Right? So say I want a new fund. I don't want the history behind it. Say there's some shady stuff in the company and we didn't keep the books and records properly, or the prior registered agent screwed it up, or something. And we don't want the existing IBC. Well, and we don't want to dissolve it first, because if I dissolve it, I pay tax. Remember, whenever I take the money, I pay tax. So what I would do, and this is the second example here, so I have my IBC, my historical IBC, right? I create a new IBC new that I license as a fund, right? And when you create a fund, what do? You subscribe to it, right? So I give you money, or I give you something and you give me shares. Well, what I do is I contribute the shares of this IBC to the new IBC, right? It's called a contribution in kind. And so now the fund owns the IBC, which owns the money. And then I liquidate the IBC. Who's the taxpayer? The fund. Not me up here. Bahamas fund, no taxes. I've just taken the assets out of my old IBC, put it in a new IBC that's licensed as a fund, liquidated it, sucked up the assets without a tax effect to me. That's the second one. Capitalize a newly established fund with the shares of the PIC. It's called a contribution in kind. Right? We do that for a number of reasons. One, I told you, if there's something contaminated with the IBC or historical that you want to get rid of. Two, if it's difficult to redomicile. Do we know what redomicile is? So this is number 2, right? So say I have a BVI company, right? And I want it to be a Bahamas company, so I can license it as a fund, a Bahamian fund. Because ours funds are just better than BVI's. Well, they are. BVI is a joke jurisdiction, right? And so I say I want to re-domicile my BVI IBC. I want to make it a Bahamas IBC. Well, you can do that. Our law and their law allows you to re-domicile. Right? And so I could re-domicile it as a Bahamas IBC and then license it as a fund. Right?
So the key is to license it as a fund.
Because why? You want the be a financial instrument so you get deferral and you get capital gains. Right? We're talking about now structuring our clients in a way that's tax preferred. Because why? Because we don't have financial privacy no more. We need to find something else to do. I still like getting a paycheck. Yes.
You have a client who you think is maybe not good. You ask him to leave, right?
Mhm.
And in leaving, they don't really care what happens to the structure.
Because they're not there.
They don't care to liquidate the company or anything. They just leave. They could still be traced through the company, right?
Has no financial account. You mean an automatic exchange? With CRS, you mean?
Yeah.
Remember, CRS is the exchange of information of a financial account. It has to be a financial account.
Or if it's not.
If it's just an IBC with no account, there's nothing to exchange. There's no financial.
That's why they could do it so comfortably.
Huh?
That's why they could do it so comfortably.
Because there's no financial account.
Oh, okay.
Now, what happens here if the BVI registered agent isn't cooperating? Or isn't filing the proper documents in BVI, taking their time, saying, oh, we got to fix the books and records, and trying. Why? Because they're going to lose the business. So you're trying to draw it out. This happens all the time. If you ever do redomiciliations of IBCs, happens all the time. You never get the other registered agent to respond. Because they're going to lose the business, so they're trying to draw it out and see what they can get from it before they lose it. So you just say, you know what you do? You do number two. You say, listen, client, we're having problems with this registered agent. He's fleecing you. He's fleecing you. Right? Let's do this. Let's create a new IBC in the Bahamas and transfer the BVI as a contribution in kind to the fund. Right? And so the IBC now owns the BVI that owns the money. Now you've accomplished your goal. You still got to deal with the issue on the BVI and liquidate it, right? But you could file articles of liquidation with the registrar and poof, it's gone as a shareholder, right? Much easier to liquidate a company than to re-domicile it.
And so they won't be able to stall or delay. Because once you give them instructions to transfer the funds, then
The funds are still in the BVI account. So the funds are still, you're not transferring the funds. You're transferring the structure. The funds stay the same. So they're still in Pictate, Geneva.
but you, based on transferring the IBC out of BVI into the Bahamas, those same regulatory controls you
Well,
talk about.
Remember, I'm transferring the shares,
Okay,
right? I'm transferring the ownership. So if I own this, right, and I own this, remember, to form a fund or an IBC, you have to make what? A capital contribution, a subscription, right? What I am subscribing, I'm subscribing my shares in the BVI to the Bahamas fund. So now I own the Bahamas fund that owns the BVI that owns the bank account. And it's much easier to liquidate a company than it is to re-domicile a company if you have a stalling party on the other end, right? And so if you need to do number 3 because you have another jurisdiction company and you're not getting a cooperation, do it like number 2. Right? Pull a fast one on them. I had to do that for a client in BVI that had a BVI. We just do a contribution in kind, then we'll liquidate. But remember, he's trying to get into a fund structure as fast as he can, so he can take advantage of deferral and capital gain. You've gotten him there, then you just have to get rid of one entity. If they're stalling on the re-domiciliation, his tax exposure continues to grow. Right? It's not just a registered agent making money, he's got a tax liability you have to deal with. So you say, no, Glenn, don't worry, don't fret, I got another way to do this. Right? That's why you should take company law too. I teach that too.
Has there been a lot of changes?
And taxes, right?
And tax, yeah.
There's been a lot of changes
In what?
in company law.
No, just so you know how the movement of shares and dissolution and all these corporate actions.
I didn't know I did it a long time
Yeah.
ago, but I.
No, not a lot of them changes.
Is there a certificate for that, company law?
Yeah, and trust.
Yeah.
They do company and trust together.
So in Mexico, how do we deal with it with Mexico? We saw funds with a lot of civil law jurisdiction, right? Mexico used trusts. What do we offer? Trusts, right? Mexico uses a trust and an icon. Get that? Right? So so in Mexico, this is what they do, right? We'll give you some free lessons here. Right? We have a Mexican settler, right? So in trust, who's familiar with trusts? Okay. So the settlor is the one that forms the trust, that contributes the money to the trust. So we have a Mexican settlor. That's the client. Right? And so the Mexican settles 2 trusts. Oh, it's looking even better for the Bahamas as a service provider jurisdiction, right? I don't get 1 trust, I get 2 trusts. Right? And so he settles this trust and he settles this trust. Right? This trust is called a capital trust. And this trust is called an income trust. Right? This is called a split trust structure. Because you're splitting capital on one side and income on the other. Right? So if this generates income, the income always pours into that trust. And then this creates more income and more income and more income, right? This is a revocable trust. This is an irrevocable trust. Right? Is there ever tax on capital if you take capital back? No, there's no income. It's capital. So if I want to take capital out of here, if I need money back, I could take it out of here tax-free. Right? It's revocable. Irrevocable, where all the income is generated, that's tax deferred. So this is deferred. So this irrevocable trust in Mexico creates deferral. Right? So I'm using a trust in Mexico, a split trust regime, that creates deferral. Right? So here you go. Now, this income trust invests through an IBC in a bank, in money. It's managed, right? The problem is that the character of the gain is not necessarily preserved when you go through an IBC. Because in Mexico, there's a dividend tax, right? So when the money comes out of this IBC, you pay 10% dividend tax. And the character, if it's ordinary income, it comes out as ordinary income, right? Real property comes out as real property, right? You still get the deferral, but you get 10% tax, which is less than the tax you would pay if you didn't get deferral. So it's still tax advantaged, but the character remains the same, right? So what we did, we said, we had this thing that we created called an icon. We created it for Brazil, right? So we hired some lawyers in Mexico, some good tax lawyers. We said, how can we use the icon in Mexico? And they analyzed it and they went through everything, right? And they said, instead of creating an IBC, why don't we invest the income element that's getting deferral using an icon? Right? An icon must register as a fund. So now you have a fund underneath a trust. So in one structure, what do we have? We have 2 trusts and a fund. right? Investing in the money, in the assets. By the use of an icon, I eliminate the 10% dividend tax, so that goes away, and I preserve the character of the gain. Right? So we have this. This is in a split trust system using an icon, right? So we have our Mexican trust capital, trust income, income in an icon that invests money. That's your structure. Assets and investments using an icon fund, capital gain, preserved, royalty gain, which is taxed at a different rate in Mexico, preserved, dividend income is dividend income. You can pay the 10% tax. If you use a regular IBC, capital gain, it's a dividend. Royalty, dividend, dividend, dividend.
10%,
So-
10%,
so I-
10%.
Plus whatever the dividend tax is, ordinary income. So now I have changed the character of the income, and I've created deferral through the split trust system for a Mexican client who is tax declared.
I thought that, clients in Mexico and places like that, they're high kidnappers.
Mm-hmm.
Whatnot, so they weren't a clientele that you would go after.
Oh, I got my largest clients are Mexicans. Mexico is probably the second largest jurisdiction for clients after Brazil now. Oh yeah, Mexico's a great country. Yes, they have those concerns, right? They have those concerns, but I have an irrevocable trust. That's a discretionary trust, right? So I don't disclose my beneficiaries unless I distribute.
And you don't.
And you don't.
Yeah.
Until you move the beneficiary somewhere else. Move them to the Bahamas. Right? And so I've created a tax deferral and change in character structure using trusts and funds located in the Bahamas for a Mexican client. Right? But you only know that by going and understanding and getting legal opinions and forming the basis of what the domestic tax law is, and then figuring out how you use the different tools in your toolbox to achieve that. Right? Financial privacy is what? Dead. So it doesn't make sense just to stick it in a bank account. Right? The second part of this is now lifestyle planning for your client. Right? So we're talking about structuring for tax deferral and structuring for change in character of income. Structuring for the first class. Right? Now what do we do about the second class? Which is all about transparency, right? So financial privacy can still be achieved. Because CRS, you disclose financial information under CRS based upon what? Tax residence of the financial accounts of the reportable person. And the reportable person is who? A tax resident of the country you're exchanging with. Right? So what if he's not a tax resident of the country you're exchanging with? What if he's a Mexican citizen living in the Bahamas? Right? What is he? If he's no longer a tax resident of Mexico, he's now a tax resident of the Bahamas. What is he? He's a tax resident of the Bahamas. Well, who do you exchange with? Nobody. You don't exchange with yourself. Right? So tax residents will be excluded from automatic exchange under CRS. They not only will be excluded for the purposes of Bahamian financial institutions, but they'll be excluded for the purposes of non-Bahamian financial institutions as well. Why? Because we did CRS what? Non-reciprocal. Remember I pointed that out? We're a non-reciprocal jurisdiction. Why? Because what use do we have of receiving information? And why would we create that database that could just get hacked of all of the people's banking information that we have no use for? So we said we're going to do it non-reciprocal. Wow, that's very good for the lifestyle planning. Now you come to the Bahamas, you form your tax residence in the Bahamas, you have bank accounts anywhere in the world, doing anything in the world, and that information never moves, never goes anywhere. Because we're a non-reciprocal automatic exchange and you're now a tax resident of the Bahamas. It's the best lifestyle plan you can have for financial privacy for your client. Right? There's one problem. There's one problem. We do not yet have a formalized tax residence regime. Why? Because we ain't got no income tax.
Do you think that's sufficient to prevent us from getting income tax? Because income tax.
You got no income tax in the Bahamas.
But I mean, you know, when VAT was introduced, wherever you have VAT, the second leg of it is income tax.
You think Rupert Roberts gonna really tell you how much he's making through super value?
Nope. No. I wouldn't either.
Well, then there won't be no income tax.
You don't even say how much he's making through VAT.
Because in an income tax, you have to declare your net income and pay tax on that. He got to tell you how much super value is making. You think Kelly's going to tell you how much Kelly's is making?
Nope.
What their profit margin is on their things? Oh. Oh.
And lawyers won't report all the money they make either.
Oh, it might be true.
Isn't he going in?
That might be true. But that doesn't mean we can't establish tax residence in the Bahamas. What do we do it through? We do it through establishing domicile. Domicile is different than tax residence. It's different. But you can legitimize tax residence by legitimizing your domicile. Right? And so the question is, what is domicile? Right? And this is lifestyle planning for your client.
Ms. Finner, before we go on, I heard, the financial minister speaking of a tax certificate.
Yeah, I need him to do that. That's my proposal.
Tanya and him are discussing it.
I wrote the first cabinet paper on a tax certificate program in the Bahamas,
Okay.
right? When I was the minister.
Yep, and it wasn't listened to. Yep.
Problem is, nobody understood what I was trying to do. They didn't want to understand.
You
Maybe-
invited them to this class.
Maybe this minister, I think we have a chance, right? Because we don't have a tax program in the Bahamas. What was my proposal? My proposal was, if you spend 90 days in the Bahamas, or you have domicile in the Bahamas, meaning it's your closer connection, right? And you could back this up by legal opinion or otherwise, and you pay a fee, the government will say, give you a certificate that says you're tax resident in the Bahamas. And you take that certificate to your bank. I'm opening my account. Here's my self-certification form that says that I'm a resident of the Bahamas. And here's a government-issued tax certificate. And they open up the account. I what? As a tax resident of the Bahamas. You're in the clear.
See that? Well,
And it's a revenue generator.
yes.
Yeah. That would be a good revenue generator.
Right?
And I think it also creates additional business in terms of fund managers,
Listen,
trusts.
second homes, you
Infrastructure.
name it.
Yeah.
You name it.
It goes hand in hand.
Who built Albany?
Tiger Woods.
Joe Louis.
Yeah,
Joe
Joe Louis.
Joe Louis lives where?
Albany.
In the Bahamas. Lived in Lifer Key. No matter what you say, who built Bahamar?
Soccer.
Where does Sarkis live?
Like
Lifer Key. Right? Where did Sir John Templeton live before he created Templeton? Lifer Key. These are all people that come and live in the Bahamas and then choose to invest in the Bahamas. The more people that you could legitimize coming and living in the Bahamas, the more ancillary economic development the country will get. There's no doubt about it. No question about it. And was every major development done? Where does Bush Stewart live? Spends most of his time.
Bush Stewart. Yeah.
Sandals.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Old Fort.
Yeah. All for.
Right?
I was thinking Adam.
You had him here all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
His father, right? And so creating that type of connection to the jurisdiction only can result in all kinds of new business. Family offices, asset management companies, things that manage the assets, all of that, right?
Yeah.
So what is domicile? Since we don't have our tax certificate, and I will say yet, right? Because it's a great idea, if I have to say so myself.
You don't know the minister, you need to go talk to him?
Oh, right. If I know the minister, we dine and have a glass of red wine at the yacht club together. Don't let your yellow and red fool yourself now.
He's my MP, you better try bring on jobs.
All right, I gotta deliver the message. So you could establish domicile in the Bahamas, which can legitimize your tax residence here, right? That's what we have to do now. That's what we have to tell our clients they have to do. And so what is domicile? I mean, domicile is where you choose your permanent home to be. I mean, that's effectively what it is, right? Your permanent home, and you have a substantial connection with it, right? Now you can have a permanent residence and this not be your domicile, right? I go buy a house, get my permanent residence certificate, and I live in Miami, or I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I don't come to the Bahamas, maybe come a week a year. Just because I have permanent residence doesn't make it my domicile, right? Right? It's a subjective element. You have to show that you are presently and indefinitely choosing to reside in that jurisdiction, right? And this is an interesting thing. It's a combination of circumstances and intent. So you have to have your facts and circumstances to show that you permanently intend on living here, right? So now we're creating a lifestyle for you in the Bahamas. We're creating your domicile in the Bahamas, right? That's what we're doing. Now, you have to always change your domicile, right? Domicile, you are given legally, you are given a domicile at birth, from a legal point of view. And your domicile is generally where your father's domicile. This is like historical old case law, right? When you're born, you're deemed to be a domicile where your father is. Because everything has gone through patrimony in the old days, right? Different now, probably much different now. Most of the times you should be domiciled where your mommy lives, right? Don't tell me why as a father. Right? You have to abandon your domicile of origin and establish a domicile of choice to change your domicile. So you have to physically, when you say the Bahamas is my domicile, you have to show that you've moved from one to the next. Right? You have to settle permanently where you think that domicile is. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to live year round, because plenty of our high net worth clients spend time all over the world. Right? They're in Brazil for 60 days. They're in London for 60 days. They're in Miami for 60 days. Right? All of that happens frequently. But you have to show that you have permanently chosen the Bahamas and you intend to stay on the Bahamas.
Permanent, doesn't mean timeshare purchase, right?
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
This is what permanent means. Right? These are some factors. And these are factors based on UK law, right? And I have some factors based on US law. So you can see the types of facts and circumstances that when you're advising a client, I do this all the time, right? I tell the client, look, we gotta create the Bahamas as your domicile. Right? That's what we have to do. I say I'm your lifestyle planner. You still travel everywhere, you got your jet, it don't matter, but let's figure out your lifestyle plan. And so I give an opinion on this. I say, this is what you should do, and if you do these things, I will give you a legal opinion that says that your domicile is the Bahamas. And you can take that legal opinion to any bank to back up your self-certification. Right? So you have to actually show that you live in the country, right? Clearly. Somehow to have a permanent intent of staying in the Bahamas. You gotta have a house, right? If you're working, you may get a job. That's why I always say, look, let's set up your family office in the Bahamas. And you work for your family office, right? Your family office manages your worldwide assets. That's what it does. But you're working and you're managing your assets from within the Bahamas. And your family office, let's license it as a financial and corporate service provider. Let's give it a regulatory envelope. Why? More substance, right? And so you have a regulated family office in the Bahamas, and that's what you do. You work through your family office that manages your worldwide assets, right? And then that's what you're doing. You're owning the business in the country. And so these types of things, it's not, rocket science, but you have to build the substance for your client.
Okay, in areas in the world where, people have to pay taxes, for them to use the Bahamas as their domicile,
They have to break their tax residence at home.
yeah, and, for us as trustees, right, we know that they only have timeshare and they have permanent residency, but they're never here. They come here 3 times out the year.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot support.
And what does their self-certification say?
You mean that their passport?
No, they're gonna have to give you a self-certification to say where they're tax resident, so you know who to exchange information on. Remember, this goes all the way back to exchange of information, right? That's where this goes back to. We're trying to create a regime for our clients where they could still have financial privacy. Now, if your client, and I got a couple of them too, right?
But they could get us in trouble.
You gotta make the decision. You're the reporting entity. They're not the reporting entity. You're the reporting entity. So if they give you a self-certification that says I'm a Bahamian tax resident and you know otherwise, it is your obligation to get it fixed
Right.
or to get evidence to demonstrate that it's true.
And if I cannot get it,
Then you categorize them of what you deem them to be based upon your due diligence rules. Remember we went through the due diligence rules and stuff?
okay.
Reviewing the documentary evidence and everything else? All right?
Question,
Yeah.
making a will in the country. One, who is that disclosed to in order to prove this domicile? And then, second part of that is it not counterproductive to keeping things private, such as establishing a trust as opposed to
Well,
doing a will?
a will or a trust, I mean, these are brought out of court decisions, right?
Okay.
And so not one of them is dispositive, but they all add on each other. And so if you came to me and said, Ryan, I have this client, and these are the elements that he has of connection to the Bahamas, I think it's enough for him to get domicile. But he has a trust, not a will. Does it matter? No, I'll write the opinion, because to me it doesn't matter. How he chooses his way to dispose of his estate and his testamentary assets is up to him. By showing it's in the Bahamas, see, that's the concept, right? Showing it's in the Bahamas and he's dedicated to this jurisdiction demonstrates an intent to me, right?
So will or trust?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Well, this is when you're a citizen in this country, so this can. But place of voting. Where's the real property again? Right? Driver's license. NIB card. Right? Are you a member of the yacht club? Do you have your red wine with the former minister and the current minister? Right? Again.
That could be described as a
We can
business
arrange
meeting.
that.
As a business meeting.
Somebody got to write the opinion. Somebody got to issue the tax certificate. Right? But these are the types of things that you use to show intent on being your domicile, right? These types of things you use, right? Now, back in the day, you used to hear people, oh, buy a gravesite, buy a headstone, right? Because there was a case out there that said, clearly he intended on permanently being in the Bahamas because he bought a gravesite in the Bahamas, right? There used to be an old judgment that said that. So all the bankers used to say, buy a headstone, buy a gravesite, right? And it was business. People would make a graveyard with no graves in it, right? And just sell a bunch of, it's like timeshare in your grave, right? Well, they've moved away from that, right? Courts now in the UK and elsewhere are really looking at the substance of the regime. So now you legitimately have to create that envelope that shows, an umbrella that shows you intend on permanently being there. Right? But this is big money, right? Because the client who lives in Mexico, who's worth $500 million, who if it got out he had $500 million, would be dead tomorrow. It's important for him. So if it's going to cost him $3, $5, $10 million to do this, it's worth it to him. What's 10% return on $500 million? $50 million. He using a 1% of his 1% of the assets to do this, or 2% of the assets to do this. I mean, come on. Right? So you've got to show a real intent on setting up your domicile and operating that way. And trust me, I'll give you the legal opinion if you show me what he's doing, right? For a nice fee, of course.
This is another question. Clients in the past have actually had people, let them, they would use their residence, their PO box or whatever, as their own in the past.
They're trying to build their indicia, right?
They pay them a fee,
Yeah.
and they use their home address.
But when they have to show a lease, when they have to show a conveyance,
Uh-huh.
right? Do they want
Can't
me?
do that.
They want me to say that he's domiciled in the Bahamas. Because you, as a banker, are you going to accept that?
No.
Right. But if I give you a legal opinion, putting my insurance at risk, that says that he's satisfied the criteria where I deem him a domiciliary of the Bahamas, and therefore he should be a Bahamian tax residence for your purposes, will you accept that? A Graham Thompson opinion?
Well,
That's
now
the
I know
problem-
what
that's
I'm
the problem
supposed to be
with
looking
Thompson.
for.
You would accept that, right?
Yeah, uh-huh. You would have done what you.
I would have had to do because
Right.
I'm writing the insurance policy to you, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Now when flat fee, you got it. That would be a big flat fee too. Right? So
That's how it works.
we're really in an era of substance now, right? But if you have the $500 million client here, who now you're doing the family office for, you're doing the trust for, right? You're buying his house, right? He wants to do a little resort. Like, you get these guys captive here, and it's not one of those one-shot clients, right? It's gonna, and especially if they're Latin American, it's gonna take them 12 to 18 months to develop this lifestyle plan, because they don't turn right corners very fast, you know?
So you don't see the industry as drying up then?
Not if I could create the efficiencies I need to do this.
You need to do
I can't sit around for 6 months looking for a permanent residence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Client gone. It can't take me 6 months to get his family office license and through BIA. Right? That needs to be a matter of course. If he's entitled to the PR, I need that done within maximum of 30 days from closing. Maximum. Right?
The new minister has gone on record that he is.
Yeah, but those are the efficiencies we need to do these things. Right? If I want his family office license through the Securities Commission and then through central government, 30 days, got to be done.
Are we gonna have a register for family offices?
Doubtful.
I mean, there's so many of them now. I mean,
They're popping up
yeah.
because people are doing this. People are building their connection to the Bahamas. Why? Because they want the protection of financial privacy, and this is the only route to do it now. So it's not dead. But it is only an option for the guys that work plenty of money that can do this. So where's our future? Our future is in becoming the Monaco of the Caribbean. Truly be the Monaco of the Caribbean. Have your clients be fewer, but worth big money, rather than a bunch of $1 to $3, $1 to $10 million accounts. You're talking big accounts, big clients.
You make sure that that one client is very happy.
And
Yeah.
you are a lifestyle planner as their advisor. Right? And you got your hands in every single thing they do. Every single structure they need to set up. Everything they need to buy, develop. You got your hands in everything. That's what I got. I said an hour. I did a little bit longer than an hour. Any questions on today? That's kind of the practical implementation of where we are today, given what we learned the last 2 classes.
I think once we really digest all of this, we'll probably get some
No
emails.
problem. No problem.
And I think this is bad, kinda slows us down, like, cause we've been running a race, a sprint.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mr. Pinder, you make it look right.
I make it look right?
Yeah.
That's good, that's good, that's good.
Long time
Pizza is served.
Yes, sir.
to digest.
Alright.
Yeah, we got that.
Example.
Yeah, no, I,
You see, when you miss 2 classes, how could you possibly understand what we talked about today?
He's a bright
He's
fellow,
just
man.
not very smart. He's very smart.
You know?
that was the one thing. Give me a shot.
Again,
I
again.
wanted to make so just now. I'm the brand. Ladies first. You want to well, me and God got this. Oh yeah, of course. Of course.
So we understand
Only round in
what we
design.
covered today and how it applies to all that meaty, in-depth tax. Everything revolves around tax today. Everything touches tax.
Everything in the world.
And who's the only tax lawyer you know?
Ryan Binder.
Ryan and
I'll tell you the best one.
at gmail.com.
That's what happens when you miss class.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Bender, please go get our tax certificate so we can get this thing rolling.
I agree.
Wouldn't that make your life easier?
You know, it just made me realize the industry's not that.
That makes you feel good.
You just make me feel so much better.
But I'm so concerned about it.
You say you need thank you.
You need it. You need it.
They don't tell us that.
You need thank you. They don't tell you that.
Yeah.
Right?
I
See?
don't to be independent.
You could substitute all of those jobs in other service providers.
Yep.
Because the fact of the matter is, the experience in the banks has been good for Bahamian people. And you
we
can
know nothing
translate that
else.
experience into other areas within the industry.
Correct.
But you know, when you up to that, people know that they're afraid change is not something that's easy for everyone.
Maybe don't like change. Only changing governments. That's the only thing they like to do.
And that's a big step.
That's the one.
Right?
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. All that. Everything firing in my brain. But that explains a lot of what I've been sitting on and seeing from the curve, you know?
Yeah.
From the stuff we working like it's so I'm just like,
Yeah. That's the basis of it all.
yeah, no, it makes sense.
So our presence is now limited, now scaled down to tax deferral, changing character of income, and lifestyle planning around financial privacy.
And when you said the Monaco, the Caribbean, I was thinking that was our only competitor,
No, I'm good.
which is a big competitor, is Bermuda. But they don't have the location, they don't have the size, they don't have the accommodate. But they get the
They don't have
American
the-
Cup.
But they don't have the institutional capacity, they don't have the service providers, they don't have the breadth of.
Right. But they got the feel of it kind of thing, like it's. But if we could just edge them out. But no, that's. I think one is mushroom, one is beef, and one is chicken. This is mushroom.
Mushroom, beef, and chicken, yeah, my right on the other side.
What?
You
Make sure carry a slice.
My car was on the front.
Hold on, so we switching roles then?
Yeah. see.
Okay, everybody, you have any questions, you can email me,
Yes.
okay? Read your slides,
Yes.
since you missed 2 classes.
I can make up.
If I gave Miguel, he can send
that is
electronically.
chicken. I thought it was
He's got the
sausage.
whole slide package now in one file, one PowerPoint, so it's like 90
Take a
slides
chance.
for all 3 classes. Okay? Okay, well, take care, best of luck.
Yes, enjoy that
Well.
glass of wine. Thank you again, man.
No problem.
You got your phone from there?
Mhm. I don't leave without them. Okay.
All right, take care.
It was,
We
I Like I told Miguel, if you didn't study for it,
They're from one of the branches.
boy, goose is
It's
cooked.
a hard
Like, cause if you had to know where to look, you didn't know it was
So what they
something.
would do,
You make me wanna take it now.
But it was
Right.
fine, I tried.
Tax.
But some people,
I was
he said it was like
supposed to do it,
50% tax rate, so.
but then they got tricked.
Who?
They did do it.
No, he thought the first two modules.
But now,
That Christine Archer and
I'm focused on
Pedro DeLeon.
meaningful, impactful education.
Who's
So, is it gonna dock this?
Archer. And most of the exam was based on her
I
section.
didn't have no more.
It
You know,
was
like,
20% of
everybody
her
doing that, yeah.
and the rest.
No,
was
I heard it's
like
pretty good.
10%.
They charted
CBA.
them.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good, but
But it's okay. I mean,
I had started.
And if
This
you
whole
didn't-
thing is taxation. Now you got my brain like, nah, we need to do taxation exactly.
But it's
That's all kind of thing.
Taxation and then.
You think
uh,
it'll take
company
it?
law.
Because a lot of the stuff they covered, the stuff that I already.
So most of what Ryan's covering now.
Because
was
their
in the
chapter
first
on
module,
this
so-
module,
Yes, this is like a.
credit and,
refresher.
and mitigation and problem, loan problem
This is
solving.
smart, because not.
It's almost like they copied
This.
what I said
Because of Warren
for,
systems,
the certified credit professional
module,
and,
this class is already.
and the credit risk management.
All right, have a good time.
One
See
half a
you
million?
later.
All right, take care.
Have a good
Have a
summer.
safe summer.
I would say summer.
Bye. No, I traveled with him when we went to Shanghai, the government convention. We was on the private thing. He was representing the minister at the time.
He's very smart.
Very,
He's
Serious.
so smart.
and very down to earth. That's why when you run in Elizabeth against, Ernie Blaine, I say, so they know them both. I say, boy, look here. Ernie might be he's an excellent doctor. This my brother is a people's person, right? When he bumps on Lizzie,
You might not bring that this way.
Ryan the lion. And the people love
But see
him.
too, a lot of people also remember his father was also very down to earth.
Exactly. And he's so,
Right down there.
Yeah,
so
very
he's the
right.
kind of guy you would sit next to him in a bar and he'd be nice. You open a topic about tax. Well, and he's on point. And so, and that's why I said I just had a meeting with him with some other stuff. That's why he's practicing with me. He said, you wouldn't apply. I said, yeah, but the first one, second one I was catching ride. Third one, you canceled, thank the Lord. And fourth one, I finally get a car. And even though it's sputtering, I think a sputter here today.
But I'm glad class last week was cancelled.
Right.
Not
Yeah, we
last
had a
week.
class last week.
I know, I'm glad.
Right.
I'm glad too.
I know you don't miss much at all. And I normally don't, but
No, I try not to miss.
I slept.
12 day for first class.
Yeah. This was a good course. Y'all know the last two teachers?
Doesn't he come back? Well, that's him for
No,
No,
that's him.
different.
That's him.
Oh, shit.
That's why you say good luck.
This is what, Shamika Fernandez, some who do,
Yeah.
who doing modules.
I can say this.
That's the last person?
Mhm.
You need
I
to
would
know
rather-
module A.
Two more, but I think she does both.
That thing, that hour, did more for me than most of these.
Yeah, he was good.
She actually could stay on Skype as far as I'm concerned now.
But, yeah, he is good. And he makes things workable.
He's good, but
He's good.
it's the difference of in person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not knocking him. It's just like, it's like alcohol, right? You don't like wine until you have a really good glass. And you're like, this is different than I've ever tasted, right? And most people don't like wine, but they don't even begin to get into what type, pairings, you know what I mean?
Did you realize, we have a lot of local people who could teach the class, or check who teaches.
Yeah.
Not exactly. I'm just saying,
The same thing,
Ray
and
Ryan
part,
was
part
good.
of the certification, the recognition is a check, he has to teach at least one of the modules, I think.
And I think,
So that may be,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
That's his program,
check-
right?
yeah,
So
I check
everything
him,
is flowing
it's
through him.
credibility.
Oh, this is his program?
Well, if you, I mean, when I say it like that, he obviously is the point of contact for Bank of Scotland or whatever.
Oh,
Like he's
okay.
he's a
Well, maybe
facilitator.
he's the one doing
The course and the
Mind you,
teaching,
solid bank.
right?
Yeah.
So
I find him very applicable.
I find him
He's not just-
extremely applicable.
Yeah, he's really, the way he can help you to understand something
way he broke down those financials.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. What blew my mind about
That's why
Ryan
this-
is
that
he
section.
navigating something we dealing with.
Yeah.
You see what they say? You teach me about, and I don't deal with cars. I learn, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
You teach me something about what I dealing with.
That's right.
Then I'm like, okay, I now see,
It's
yeah.
really interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
That, cause, man, y'all ain't even know. One of those examples was from our meeting.
Mm.
What's so amazing is that all I'm hearing is that this industry is gone. Well, it's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so
right.
listen to him, I'm like, oh,
No,
I
it
might
is.
be employed for another,
Private banking
Yeah,
is
you know.
dead. But that ain't mean wealth is dead.
Yeah, wealth management.
Right, see, private banking is dead. That's a fair statement. That don't mean wealth dead.
that's true.
And then you have to pay attention.
You know, sometimes it's the semantics of it, and sometimes people who making these statements don't fully understand the difference between wealth management and private banking.
We have,
Think about kind of humorous too, though. Higgins.
He was good.
Higgins is always very,
Higgins is
very
too smart for
provocative.
himself.
He's very provocative.
See, what
That's
I
a
like
smart
with-
Philip.
What I like with Ryan, didn't know, what he's doing is even if it is dying, he's pioneering it back. Like a lot
Yeah.
of strategies, especially in Aaron and saying that he was in conversation with the current, and the stuff Ryan has is to recreate that. That's what we need.
and he's serious when he said he going to meet with Branch, you know.
He's serious.
Yeah.
Man, you
Oh, that's
know,
serious
He
with
joking,
Ryan?
he's serious.
No,
But guess what?
But bear in
I
mind,
know Peter Turkle was doing stuff.
listen to what he said, no.
No, but
No, no,
Brad
no.
is
Ryan
financial
Brand is
services.
financial
Brand is
services.
financial, and I don't understand how Brand took it, but I'm glad he did.
No, Brad wanted that. Brad wanted
Hey,
it.
When he
Hello?
come to my door, I let him know. He better try to find something else to
Hello?
do.
Because we had the institute had a meeting with
hello,
him, because I'm on council,
hello.
so they asked me to attend the meeting.
So I'm gonna hang up before I answer that. I knew it before you on WhatsApp.
And that morning, he said he was signing off, dealing with
Is this
50
a traffic?
residency applications.
Drop it out.
Well,
So in the afternoon, he could look at another 50. He says the backlog is like 1,300 applications backlog. And so he said he's dedicated to a minimum of 100 a day, 50 in the morning, 50 in the afternoon, between, because you know he wears the immigration hat as well. So,
Who,
that's
Brandon
another,
that?
yeah. Immigration is
They
under him.
combine those two.
It's all under
so
foreign
you have
affairs.
an easy
Well, I
triangle.
didn't know that, cause I kept wondering they give that to the little boy. I thought they gave
For-
immigration to the little boy.
No, foreign affairs is to, the guy from Abaco.
The,
That was a,
defense force guy.
that was a political favor for Hubert, give his boy foreign affairs.
I
But,
didn't
but,
know he was still in
but a lot of the
immigration.
foreign affairs that really matter in this country is in financial services and immigration.
Well, I can tell you one
Which
thing,
is why
I did
Brent
not
still-
know he was still immigration, but I'm glad to know that he
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, I gotta run.
Y'all have a good summer.
And Brandon serious,
Try read.
he'll say one thing,
Uh-huh.
and that's a done deal, you already know,
I know him. I say.
that he's done it.
Who, Brent?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's, I told him, I say, you see all these people out here?
all this
Brent
talking
seems
and
like a
stuff.
nice guy, but
That's fine.
I put some pressure on him one time, and the first thing he do is deflect. However, I did vote for him, and my boy who didn't vote, come to me with, wait, man, you help me, man, bro. I say, hey, what you have, landscape company? I say, yeah, man. Go to Branson and tell him you vote, which is a lie, it was my vote, I ain't asked for no favor, and say, hey, all these parks are these, let me
That's
maintain
right.
them. You know what Brent do? Sign, seal, and deliver. They say, at least my vote gets something. But I asked him a real question. And man, he back out on me like a dance. He
Yeah.
said, the first thing he do is call for troops. Hey, meet this guy, because he was having something, this is years ago. Remember when there's burgers on the park? Free burgers and all that? So I go on out there, God,
He's still having stuff on the
but that's how
park.
I get it.
He's still having stuff
I
on
go
the
on out there
park.
full.
yeah.
So you know I wasn't into no burgers. Going out there full. The him in shape. Make a beeline for him. Hey, Brent, how you doing? He say, hey. I say, hey, shake your hand. When they shake your hand, they pull them in close. Whoop! Like your old school people, you know. Come here. They say, hey, man, I heard you made a statement about so-and-so. Can you really expand on your policy? Because it kind of contradicts what you blah, blah, blah. So when he said, he look at me.
I ain't come with that for that man.
Yo, hold on. Yo, you grab him. Yo, come. Tell him. I said, brother, talking to you. After a while, I said, anyway, let me get him a bail.
Yeah, but he's using for the voice, that's what happened.
You guys have a good summer.
And then bring a topic there.
See you guys
Bring
in
it, okay, you
September.
enjoy.
Alright.
Okay.
Tell Robbie hi for me.
I will.
We look forward to seeing you on the beach periodically in the bikini.
So we off July and August then.
Yeah. You know what? I think I might do a little study in July, August.
You better. Refresh it.
'Cause
September. October, right there.
yeah.
The things there.
Alright. You know when you
Someone like me, who ain't do this on a day-to-day basis, I need to. I said, I'll need this study group.
no, well, don't worry, well, we have it.
No, that's
We got it.
It's not, it's just a matter of us getting
Well,
together.
when Voltron come together,
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
you can walk in the boardroom, meet us all around, the food will be there, we could be plowing through. So, but it's just, yeah, we in the same way. I know I be brain dead. I know God is sometimes he brain dead. But we just coming in, we just try to solve.
Listen to me, driving out here this afternoon was such a struggle.
Right?
But you know, it sounds like that. Cause I emailed, again, like I said, it's the last class. I was rescheduling for the night. Is it on?
Right.
You know, cause I say something like you. My car is very,
Autopilot?
very, sensitive. So I can't put too much, you know?
Yeah.
I've been on for 14 years.
You sound like two good candidates I need to refer.
But look here.
They're doing new car loads now, right, that boy is
I don't know the one.
Well,
I don't
I
know.
Up to 8 years.
up to 8 years?
Mm-hmm.
I want, boy. Not me. Not me. I gotta look for Ash. Maybe he could give him 50,000 like he passed it.
Hello?
Who's that?
The Ash guy.
I just
The
finished up a class. I coming that way right
$8 million
now.
man. $8.6 million man.
No. It
Oh,
rated out
clean
easy.
it, man. Give him 50% of that. No. Who's not in the Perry and Shane?
Alright, no worries. I'm leaving class right now. Alright.
I'll buy yourself a Bentley.
Who buy this other than
No, Mercedes. Ash. $8.6 million man. From Hurricane Cleanup.
Let me tell you something. Every time I think about it, it's criminal. And my thing is, in politics, right? How much, I can get one more piece of chicken, a small piece. And I can be finished. How much money, my thing is, how much money does one person want?
Right? It's
As much as you could get.
I think that's this piece of beef. God, you see when he talk about Kelly's? Kelly's that was make $1 billion, you know. They reached that. I mean, they make it annually. I see, like, someone tell me about a sip.
I think from just Kelly's alone or from their consolidated companies.
They're consolidated companies. The fact that they own that thing in there, it's big. You talking about the who is blind? This was about 3-4 years ago. Cause I know some fellas in that circle, kinda sorta not, but they know them. And say, boy, they had a weekend-long party. But
I need to,
I know how true it is.
I need to call you, man, I need to discuss something with you.
Alright, cool, just let me know. Let me know, man. Let me know. You're working on a deal now. Come to market soon. Good rate of return. Deal got 8% annual return. Strong cash flows. Strong cash flows. Checkly approved.
Let me tell you something, 8% in this day and time is exceptional.
Exactly. We were able to advise that it's coming. The reason we did, cause it's a private placement, and Alive came out at 8%. But Alive ain't really, that's just, I don't want to gamble, but, you know, they ain't got no assets, they ain't got no cash, they don't break even till 3 years, 4 years. You're just banking on that they got the belief that they can do that. But this is different. Strong cash flow, could service it.
The danger with Alive is, to me, you have to do so much to get your foot in the door, because when you look at BTC was been here for years, and when you look at trying to take all those big commercial customers from them, that could be a serious war.
Well, there's only 3 things that they, first of all, there's no concept of product loyalty in the Bahamas. So that's what they're banking on. However, what they do have is to deal with is number loyalty. God had his phone, that number from